of that was just 1 week ago. We have just concluded our very first Diablo 4 public test realm. How did it go? What were the people's thoughts? Was it a success? Let's find out. I'm your host Cliptus, and this is the current state of Diablo 4. Before we hop into the final details of what happened over the last week, let's hear from the people. The overall sentiment was incredibly positive. From the Diablo 4 forums, man, I want to play more PTR right now. Another happy user said, but at least it's something worth the wait. Look at these screenshots taken directly from the PTR itself. Zydrate DLR said, he's 10,000 times happier with this PTR. It's been great. I really hope they make more changes. I really do, and keep with it. Mr. Goodbite said, I'm glad they did this PTR. I think it sold me on this next season. These are just a fraction of the positivity that is poured out of this PTR. Personally, I played it with several clan members, and not a single person that played it didn't have fun. Let's break the whole thing down. This PTR, or public test realm, allowed players to get early access to try, test, and report any bugs for the upcoming changes in Diablo 4 Season 4. This is not the seasonal content that will be coming. The devs made massive changes to the game at its core and will be overlaying all of the new seasonal content over these changes. The season ends on May 14th, which will be the start of the new Season 4. Here's the breakdown of today's video. Starting with major changes, we're going to cover Helltides, items, crafting, bosses and uber bosses, and finally, the pit. Then we'll cover some of the quality of life changes that will be coming as well. Helltides, oh Helltides. How we have avoided you like the plague. After 3 seasons of the same thing, Helltides was just a bore. The density was low, the drop rate on cinders was low, and the only thing you got was gear until you spent about 10 to 15 minutes to open a single chest. Enter Helltides 2.0. The changes are massive. Here is a breakdown of what they've added. Loot, loot, and more loot. Before this, you could only get Forgotten Souls and Helltides through opening a chest. Same with elixirs. Now Forgotten Souls are everywhere. They drop from elites, they drop from bosses, they drop from chests. They added the legendary color to the Forgotten Souls names, and it appears on your map so you will never miss them. Elixirs drop everywhere, so you will always be stacked on the best ones out there. They added 2 new spires that are very similar to everyone's favorite vampiric zone. One that drains your life more and more the longer you stay in it, but the longer you stay in it, the more monsters spawn. Another that does damage to you in a circle. If you don't avoid it, it'll kill you. My personal feelings about Helltide 2.0 are overwhelmingly positive. I hated having to go farm in Helltides before, so I simply wouldn't. During the PTR, I couldn't get myself to leave because there was constantly so much to do. This was a major win for me. So much so that anytime anyone in my live stream would ask about it, I would drop whatever I was doing and run to Helltides to show them all of the fun stuff that was there. They gave us major itemization changes. They completely reworked all affixes, making it faster to go through gear. They took out the need to sort through rare gear after you gain access to legendary gear. In the current version of the game, you have to go through all of the rare gear and legendary gear because they are exactly the same pieces of gear. Legendary just has an aspect on it. Now, rare gears will only and always have 2 affixes, as opposed to legendary that has 3. All you ever have to do now is look at legendary gear. You can salvage your rares for veiled crystals. I was able to clear level after level of the pit without the need to run to the blacksmith or the vendor to sell gear. When I finally did fill up, only having to search through 3 lines of text was way faster than it had ever been. This was the gear change that we needed. Blizzard introduced 2 brand new crafting systems into the game, tempering and masterworking. Both work hand in hand, but if you were paying attention before, we talked about legendaries only having 3 affixes. Well, tempering now, you can add back in 2 additional affixes of your choice, if luck is in your favor, of course. Once you've tempered your items, then you're on to masterworking. This replaces upgrading at the blacksmith. Your gear now has 12 levels. Every level you gain a 5% increase to all of the affixes on the item. At level 4, 8, and 12, one affix gains a 25% increase. It's random which one gets it. I'll have a complete guide coming out for these new systems in just a couple days. So don't forget to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell so you don't miss the notification for it. I was a little apprehensive about this system at first. It seemed like the tempering was repetitive and the masterworking would take way too long to level up. Once I got into the game, I started finding recipes for tempering from bosses or from held-tide chests, which unlocked more and more affixes for me to choose from, and I saw really cool interactions with these new affixes. I was sold. Then, to my surprise, masterworking was way more comprehensive than I thought. I was worried about the materials as I pushed further and further into the pit. The lower level ones stopped to drop, but they fixed that with the alchemist. The alchemist sells you lower level materials for the price of higher level materials at a 1:5 ratio. It's actually a great conversion rate. Your chance to successfully upgrade your gear constantly decreases. It goes all the way down to 20% by the time you get to rank 11. I was sure it would take me weeks of farming before I maxed all my gear, but they add a 10% success rate for each fail, and higher level pits drop a huge amount of upgrade materials. Bosses and uber bosses have been reworked. The drop rate for all of the materials that you need to summon was increased, but the biggest change to all of the bosses, all the way from Barshan to Duriel, is that they added an uber version of each of them, including Duriel himself. It requires a lot more mats to summon, but they drop way more loot. But be warned, until your character has great gear, they are actually very challenging. We also now have access to another boss that has a high chance of dropping uber uniques, and Duriel. She's back. She will act just like Duriel and adds a little bit more variety to the uber unique grind. During my time on the PTR, I got to fight several of these uber bosses, including the uber version of Duriel. We were not prepared. Even Barshan himself, we could not kill without having the incredibly broken, and soon to be nerfed, Druid Hurricane. Another group of mine, we did manage to kill Duriel, and seeing all of those uniques drop at one time was amazing. Let's talk about the pit. This is a new dungeon that they added to solve all of our endgame needs. When you zone into the pit, you'll be faced with a 10-minute timer. You will need to find a portal that will take you to the second level while killing monsters on your way there. As you kill these monsters, a progress bar will fill up. When you find the second level, you will need to continue killing monsters until you complete that progress bar. When you do, all of the monsters will disappear immediately, and a portal will open to the boss room. If you complete that boss within your time limit, you are given a full chest of crafting materials, a bunch of legendary gear, and you unlock the next tier of the dungeon. If you die at any point during the run, it's not over. You can continue, but your first death takes off 30 seconds from the timer. The second death, 1 minute, and so on, with each death adding 30 seconds. If your timer runs out before you beat the boss, you cannot progress to the next tier of the dungeon. However, you can still complete it and gain the gear from the boss. In the PTR after tier 100, monster level stopped increasing at 199, but in the dev stream, they did mention monster level 250 or higher, so I believe this was only going to be a sneak peek that we got. Pushing higher and higher into this dungeon was so much fun. It felt like AOZ all over again, without the instant cancel to your run if you died. I spent hours in here trying to see what I could get out of my character. Even though there were a lot of instances of one-shot mechanics, I think it was still a ton of fun. As long as the progression keeps going up infinitely, I think this will be another win for endgame. I do hope to see some extra rewards coming for tier completions, maybe a title or an achievement or something along those lines. And now for the bread and butter, quality of life changes. Towns have been condensed, all of them. The blacksmith, the occultist, the alchemist, they're all next to each other. And your stash is all right there. Herbs have all been reduced down to one common herb found all over the place. And there are just a couple rares that drop from across the map. With affix changes, time spent going through all of your gear is way less, which means more killing and running. Your Codex of Power now holds every single aspect in the game. And as you salvage legendaries with better and better aspects, you keep the highest version of that aspect that you found. They also took the time to speed up little tiny details. There are a lot of simple things in there, like picking up objective items in dungeons, dismounting your horse. A lot of these things are very tiny, but will be noticed. Things that I hope get changed before next season launches. Veiled crystals were hard to come by, but based on my current character in Season 3, I have 18,000 of them. I think we were thrown into the mix in this PTR, where we were all 100 with every aspect available to us, and didn't have the chance to level our characters, salvage the items as we leveled. Some of the aspects are pricey though, with some of them going up to 150 veiled crystals per aspect enchant. The pit did stop at tier 100. I'm hoping that this was just a limited release for the PTR and it will continue to scale up. I hope they do a little bit more tweaking on class balances. It was pretty glaringly obvious which of the builds were going to be the ones that were used in Season 4, and I hope that there's some room for diversity. And I really hope they give rogues some love. I don't think I saw more than one rogue in the entire PTR. I'm incredibly excited to get the patch notes for the seasonal theme of Season 4, and I'll be sure to bring you all that's coming. Hope you enjoyed the video.